United States history. Around 1800 AD. Part 3. California. September 9, 1850. California became the 31st state. Peter Burnett served as the first governor. Maryland. 1850. First National Women's Rights Convention held in Worcester. New Mexico. 1850. Official establishment of New Mexico Territory. Utah. 1850. The Utah Territory was established, encompassing modern Nevada, Colorado, and Wyoming. District of Columbia. 1850. Compromise of 1850 ends slave trade, but not slavery, in D.C. Connecticut. 1851. Phoenix Mutual Life Insurance Company was founded in Hartford. Indiana. 1851. New Constitution enacted, restricting state debt and banning African American settlement. Article 13. Iowa. 1851. The Sioux ceded their last Iowa lands, completing Native American removals. Maine. 1851. Maine passed the nation's first prohibition law, led by Neal Dow. Minnesota. 1851. Treaties of Traverse des Sioux and Mendota forced Dakota to cede 24 million acres. Nevada. 1851. Mormons established Genoa, originally Mormon Station, Nevada's first permanent settlement. Ohio. 1851. Sojourner Truth delivers Ain't I a Woman? Speech at Akron's Women's Rights Convention. Washington. 1851. The Denny Party found Seattle. Hawaii. 1852. First contract laborers arrive, Chinese workers. Start of plantation labor migration, later including Japanese, Filipino, and Portuguese workers. New Hampshire. 1852. Franklin Pierce, from Hillsborough, becomes the 14th U.S. president. Arizona. 1853. The Gadsden Purchase added southern Arizona, enabling a southern transcontinental railroad route. Connecticut. 1853. Aetna Life Insurance Company was established. Washington. 1853. Isaac Stevens, first governor of Washington Territory. Washington. 1853. Washington Territory splits from Oregon. Olympia becomes capital. California. 1854. Sacramento became the permanent state capital. Kansas. 1854. Kansas-Nebraska Act allowed settlers to vote on slavery. Bleeding Kansas, violence erupted. Nebraska. 1854. Kansas-Nebraska Act created Nebraska Territory, opening land for settlers, and sparking slavery debates. Wisconsin. 1854. Ripon's Little White Schoolhouse hosts founding meeting of the Republican Party. Vermont. 1854. Vermont elects its first Republican governor, aligning with anti-slavery politics. Washington. Treaties of 1854 to 1856. Stevens negotiates treaties forcing tribes onto reservations. Michigan. 1855. Michigan State University founded as the first land-grant university. Oregon. 1855 to 1856. Gold rushes spark conflicts like the Rogue River Wars. Washington. 1855 to 1858. Conflicts like the Yakima War and Puget Sound War displaced native tribes. Kansas. 1856. John Brown led anti-slavery raids in Pottawatomie Massacre. Kentucky. 1856. Margaret Garner, an enslaved woman, flees Kentucky but is captured after killing her child to prevent her return to slavery, later inspiring Toni Morrison's Beloved. Ohio. 1856. Tintype camera patented by Hamilton Smith. Tennessee. 1856. Vigilantes murder 10 to 15 enslaved blacks in Perry County over revolt rumors. Maryland. 1857. The U.S. Naval Academy was established in Annapolis. Missouri. 1857. The Dred Scott decision, originating in St. Louis, denied freedom to enslaved people, inflaming national tensions. Utah. 1857 to 1858. The Utah War, a standoff between Mormons and the U.S. Army over polygamy and sovereignty. Minnesota. May 11, 1858. Minnesota becomes the 32nd state. Henry Sibley is first governor. Arkansas. 1858. The Memphis and Little Rock Railroad marked the state's first rail line. Colorado. 1858. Gold discovered near Pikes Peak, sparking the Colorado Gold Rush and the slogan, Pikes Peak or Bust. Illinois. 1858. Lincoln-Douglas debates. Abraham Lincoln denounces slavery, gaining national prominence. New Jersey. 1858. The first near-complete dinosaur fossil, Hadrosaurus, is discovered in Haddonfield. Oregon. February 14, 1859. Oregon becomes the 33rd state. Colorado. 1859. Denver City is founded as a mining supply hub. Kansas. 1859. Wyandotte Constitution, anti-slavery, drafted. Nevada. 1859. The Comstock Lode Silver Strike near Virginia City sparked a mining boom, attracting figures like Henry Comstock and Mark Twain, who wrote for the Territorial Enterprise. Ohio. 1859. John Brown, an abolitionist from Akron, raids Harper's Ferry. Pennsylvania. 1859. Edwin Drake drilled the first oil well near Titusville, sparking the petroleum industry. Virginia. 1859. John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry. Washington. 1859. The Pig War nearly triggers U.S.-British conflict over San Juan Islands. West Virginia. 1859. Abolitionist John Brown raided Harper's Ferry, aiming to arm enslaved people. Captured and executed, he became a martyr for the anti-slavery movement. Arkansas. 1850s. Plantation economies boomed, relying on enslaved labor. Georgia. 1850s. Railroads, e.g., Western and Atlantic, spur Atlanta's growth as a hub. Mississippi. 1850s. Cotton plantations, reliant on enslaved labor, dominate the economy. Oregon. 1850s. Gold rushes spark conflicts. Wisconsin. 1850s. Abolitionism thrives. Connecticut. 1850s to 1860s. Connecticut industry boomed during the Civil War. Iowa. 1850s to 1860s. Railroad expansion transformed Iowa into a commodity farming hub, supplying grain and livestock nationally. South Carolina. December 20th, 1860. South Carolina secedes from the Union, the first state to do so. Alabama. 1860. Alabama had 964,000 people, including 435,000 slaves. Arkansas. 1860. Enslaved labor makes up 25% of the population. Connecticut. 1860. Abraham Lincoln campaigned in Connecticut. Idaho. 1860. Gold discovered at Orofino Creek, sparking the first gold rush. Franklin, Idaho's first permanent town, founded by Mormon settlers. Louisiana. 1860. Slaves makes up 47% of Louisiana's population. Mississippi. 1860. Enslaved Africans comprise 55% of the population. Mississippi. January 9, 1861. Mississippi secedes from the Union and joins the Confederacy. Florida. 1861. Florida secedes from the Union and joins the Confederacy. It supplies salt, beef, and bacon to Confederate troops. Alabama. January 11, 1861. Alabama seceded from Union. Georgia. 1861. Georgia secedes, joins the Confederacy. Key figures: Alexander Stephens, Confederate States of America Vice President, Robert Toombs. Louisiana. January 26, 1861. Civil War era. Louisiana seceded from the Union, joining the Confederacy. Kansas. January 29, 1861. Kansas admitted as the 34th state, free state. Texas. 1861. Texas seceded from the Union, joined the Confederacy. Alabama. February 8, 1861. Confederate States organized in Montgomery. Alabama. February 18, 1861. Jefferson Davis inaugurated as Confederate President in Montgomery. South Carolina. April 12, 1861. The Civil War begins when Confederate forces attack Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor. Virginia. 1861. Virginia secedes from Union after Fort Sumter. Virginia. 1861. Richmond becomes Confederate capital. West Virginia. April 1861. Virginia seceded from the Union. Western delegates opposed secession and formed the restored government of Virginia in Wheeling. Arkansas. May 6, 1861. Arkansas seceded from the Union, joining the Confederacy. North Carolina. May 20, 1861. North Carolina seceded after Lincoln's call for troops. Tennessee. June 24, 1861. Tennessee seceded from the Union. East Tennessee remains pro-Union. Colorado. 1861. Colorado Territory is officially established by Congress. Kentucky. 1861. A Confederate government is briefly established in Bowling Green. Nevada. 1861. Nevada Territory was carved from Utah Territory. Carson City became the capital. North Dakota. 1861. Dakota Territory organized, included both Dakotas and parts of Montana/Wyoming. Connecticut. 1861 to 1865. About 55,000 Connecticut men served in the Union Army. Delaware. 1861 to 1865. Civil War. Delaware remained in the Union despite being a slave state. Fort Delaware held Confederate prisoners. Illinois. 1861 to 1865. Over 250,000 Illinoisans fight for the Union. No major battles occur in state. Indiana. 1861 to 1865. Over 210,000 Hoosiers fight for the Union. Kentucky. 1861 to 1865. Divided loyalties. Kentucky initially declares neutrality, but later sides with the Union. Maine. 1861 to 1865. Maine contributed 73,000 soldiers to the Union, including Generals Joshua Chamberlain, hero of Gettysburg, and Oliver Otis Howard. Massachusetts. 1861 to 1865. Massachusetts plays key role in Civil War, supplying troops and manufacturing arms at Springfield Armory. Michigan. 1861 to 1865. Over 90,000 Michiganders fight in the Civil War. Missouri. 1861 to 1865. Missouri was a divided border state. Union forces retained control despite Confederate guerrilla raids, e.g., Quantrill's Raiders. Key figure: Sterling Price, Confederate general and former governor. New Hampshire. 1861 to 1865. Civil War. New Hampshire supplies over 30,000 soldiers to the Union. Ohio. 1861 to 1865. Ohio contributes 300,000 Union troops. Generals Ulysses S. Grant and William Tecumseh Sherman led Union forces. Wisconsin. 1861 to 1865. Civil War sees Wisconsin contribute troops. Post-war progressive movement begins. Iowa. 1860s. Iowa contributed over 75,000 soldiers to the Union during the Civil War. Afterward, veterans bolstered agricultural development. Tennessee. April 6th to 7th, 1862. Bloody Battle of Shiloh. District of Columbia. April 16th, 1862. D.C. Emancipation Act frees enslaved people in D.C. 9 months before the Emancipation Proclamation. Louisiana. April 25, 1862. Union forces captured New Orleans, a critical blow to the Confederacy. Alabama. 1862. Confederate raider CSS Alabama launched in England. Arkansas. 1862. Key battle, Pea Ridge. Union victory securing Missouri. Arkansas. 1862. Key battle, Prairie Grove. Stalemate consolidating Union control. Kentucky. 1862. Battle of Perryville, largest Civil War battle in Kentucky. Maryland. 1862. Civil War. Maryland remained in the Union despite slaveholding. The Battle of Antietam was the bloodiest single-day battle in U.S. history, leading to Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. Minnesota. 1862. Dakota War. Uprising after broken treaties and starvation. Dakota attack settlers. Over 500 die. 38 Dakota are executed in Mankato, largest U.S. mass execution. Nebraska. 1862. Homestead Act promised 160 acres to settlers. New Mexico. 1862. Civil War battles included Valverde. Tennessee. 1862. Ulysses S. Grant captures Forts Henry and Donelson. Tennessee. 1862. Nathan Bedford Forrest's raids begin. Montana. 1862 to 1863. Gold discovered at Grasshopper Creek and Alder Gulch, leading to boomtowns like Bannack and Virginia City. Lawlessness spurred vigilante justice, including the hanging of outlaw Sheriff Henry Plummer. Rhode Island. 1862 to 1865. During the Civil War, the U.S. Naval Academy was temporarily relocated to Newport. West Virginia. June 20th, 1863. West Virginia admitted as the 35th state under President Lincoln, the only state born from Civil War division. Key figures: Francis Pierpont, father of West Virginia, led the pro-Union government. Stonewall Jackson, Confederate general born in Clarksburg, now West Virginia. Tennessee. November 1863. Battle of Chattanooga. Arizona. 1863. Arizona split from New Mexico Territory. Prescott became the first capital. Idaho. 1863. Idaho Territory formed. Includes modern Montana and Wyoming. Lewiston becomes capital. Idaho. 1863. Bear River Massacre. U.S. Army kills 300+ Shoshone. Indiana. 1863. Battle of Corydon is the only Civil War battle in Indiana. Kansas. 1863. Quantrill's raiders, pro-Confederate, attacked Lawrence, killing 150-plus men. Mississippi. 1863. Key battles include Vicksburg, a turning point in the war. Nebraska. 1863. Daniel Freeman filed first claim of Homestead Act near Beatrice. New York. 1863. Draft riots erupt, fueled by class and racial tensions. Over 100 killed. Pennsylvania. 1863. Battle of Gettysburg. Union victory marked the Civil War's turning point. Minnesota. 1863. The 1st Minnesota Regiment suffers 82% casualties at Gettysburg, a pivotal Civil War sacrifice. Tennessee. 1863. Military Governor Andrew Johnson frees his slaves. Virginia. 1863. West Virginia separates, admitted as 35th state. Washington. 1863. Idaho Territory splits from Washington, defining modern borders. New Mexico. 1863 to 1868. Kit Carson led campaigns against Navajo culminating in the Long Walk. Florida. February 20th, 1864. The Battle of Olustee is Florida's largest Civil War battle, a Confederate victory. Alabama. August 1864. Union captured Forts Gaines and Morgan in Mobile Bay. Alabama. September 1864. Bread riots in Mobile. Nevada. October 31st, 1864. Nevada became the 36th state, rushed to support Lincoln's re-election. Its constitution was telegraphed to Congress, the costliest transmission ever at the time. Tennessee. November 30th, 1864. Battle of Franklin. Tennessee. December 15th to 16th, 1864. Battle of Nashville. Colorado. 1864. Sand Creek Massacre. U.S. troops killed 230 Cheyenne and Arapaho, mostly women and children. Connecticut. 1864. Travelers Insurance issued its first policy. Georgia. 1864. Sherman's march to the sea burns Atlanta and Savannah, crippling the Confederacy. Idaho. 1864. Capital moves to Boise. Louisiana. 1864. Red River Campaign saw major fighting in northern Louisiana. Montana. 1864. Montana Territory was created. Bannack and later Virginia City served as capitals. Vermont. 1864. Confederate raiders attack St. Albans in the northernmost Civil War action. South Carolina. February 17, 1865. General Sherman's march devastates Columbia. The war ends with South Carolina's economy in ruins. North Carolina. March 19 to 21, 1865. The Battle of Bentonville is the last major Confederate campaign. Alabama. April 2, 1865. Last major Civil War battle at Fort Blakely. District of Columbia. April 14, 1865. Abraham Lincoln assassinated at Ford's Theater. Alabama. April 15, 1865. Mobile captured by Union forces. North Carolina. April 26, 1865. General Joseph E. Johnston surrenders to Sherman at Bennett Place. Alabama. May 4, 1865. General Richard Taylor surrendered Alabama forces. Texas. June 19, 1865. Juneteenth marked emancipation of enslaved Texans. Missouri. 1865. Missouri abolished slavery before the 13th Amendment. Delaware. 1865. Slavery ended in Delaware with the 13th Amendment. Kentucky. 1865. 13th Amendment abolishes slavery, but Kentucky initially refuses to ratify it. Tennessee. 1865. Tennessee abolishes slavery in new constitution. Tennessee. 1865. Ku Klux Klan founded in Pulaski. Virginia. 1865. Robert E. Lee surrenders to Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse. Virginia. 1865. Richmond burned. War ends. West Virginia. 1865. State abolished slavery and ratified the 13th Amendment. Mississippi. 1865 to 1877. Reconstruction begins. Maine. 1865 to 1900. Post-war boom. Industries like shipbuilding, Bath Iron Works, lumber, and textiles thrived. Potatoes became a key crop in Aroostook County. Alabama. 1866. President Johnson declared civil war ended in Alabama. Indiana. 1866. Reno brothers commit the first U.S. train robbery in Jackson County. Nebraska. 1866. Transcontinental Railroad construction began, bringing Union Pacific through Omaha. Oklahoma. 1866. Slavery abolished in Indian Territory after Civil War, tribes allied with the Confederacy. Tennessee. 1866. First Confederate state readmitted to Union. Alabama. 1867. Blacks voted in Tuscumbia municipal election. Nebraska. March 1, 1867. Nebraska became the 37th state. Capital moved from Omaha to Lincoln. Alaska. 1867. Russia offers to sell Alaska to the U.S. Alaska. March 30, 1867. Alaska Purchase, Seward's Folly. U.S. Secretary of State William H. Seward negotiates the purchase of Alaska for $7.2 million, 2 cents per acre. Alaska. October 18, 1867. Formal transfer ceremony in Sitka, Alaska Day. Colorado. 1867. Denver becomes the territorial capital. Kansas. 1867. Chisholm Trail established, driving Texas cattle through Kansas to railroads. Wyoming. 1867. Cheyenne is founded as the Union Pacific Railroad arrives, spurring growth. North Carolina. July 4, 1868. North Carolina is readmitted to the Union after ratifying the 14th Amendment. Wyoming. July 25, 1868. Wyoming Territory is created. Alabama. 1868. Alabama readmitted to Union after ratifying 14th Amendment. Arkansas. 1868. Arkansas was readmitted to the Union after ratifying the 14th Amendment. Connecticut. 1868. Land at Groton was given to the U.S. Navy for a naval station. Louisiana. 1868. Louisiana readmitted to the Union with a progressive constitution granting black voting rights. Ohio. 1868. Ulysses S. Grant elected president, first of Ohio's 7 U.S. presidents. South Carolina. 1868. South Carolina is readmitted to the Union after ratifying a new constitution granting black men voting rights. South Dakota. 1868. Treaty of Fort Laramie granted Black Hills to Lakota. Tennessee. 1868. House impeaches President Andrew Johnson. California. 1869. The first transcontinental railroad connected Sacramento to the east, boosting agriculture and trade. Leland Stanford and the Big Four financed its construction. Nevada. 1869. The Transcontinental Railroad was completed at Promontory Summit, linking Nevada to national markets. Oregon. 1869. The Transcontinental Railroad connects Oregon to national markets. Utah. 1869. The first Transcontinental Railroad was completed at Promontory Summit, linking Utah to the nation. Wyoming. 1869. Wyoming grants women the right to vote and hold office, a U.S. first. Rhode Island. 1860s. By this time, about 50% of Rhode Islanders worked in industrial jobs, with textile and later jewelry manufacturing dominating the economy. Georgia. 1870. Georgia is readmitted to the Union. Idaho. 1870. Chinese immigrants comprise 28.5% of Idaho's population. Mississippi. 1870. Hiram Revels, first black U.S. Senator representing Mississippi. Ohio. 1870. Ohio State University founded as a land-grant college. South Carolina. 1870. Joseph Rainey becomes the first black U.S. congressman. Texas. 1870. Readmitted to the Union, cattle drives, e.g., Chisholm Trail, began. Virginia. 1870. Virginia readmitted to Union. Wyoming. 1870. Esther Hobart Morris becomes the first female justice of the peace. Illinois. 1871. Great Chicago Fire destroys 20,000 buildings. City rebuilds with steel skyscrapers. North Dakota. 1871. Northern Pacific Railroad reaches Fargo. District of Columbia. 1871. Territorial government established. Alaska. 1872. First gold discovery in Sitka, but no major rush. Nebraska. 1872. Arbor Day founded by J. Sterling Morton. Wyoming. 1872. Yellowstone becomes the world's first national park. Louisiana. 1872 to 1873. PBS Pinchback served as America's first black governor. Louisiana. 1873. Colfax Massacre saw 150 black citizens killed in racial violence. Missouri. 1873. Susan Elizabeth Blow opened the first U.S. public kindergarten in St. Louis. Tennessee. 1873. Vanderbilt University founded. Alabama. 1874. Democrats regained control, ending Reconstruction. Arkansas. 1874. The Brooks-Baxter War, a political feud, led to the state's current constitution. Hawaii. 1874. King Kalakaua elected, Mary Monarch, promotes Hawaiian culture. Idaho. 1874. Railroads expand. Utah northern reaches Franklin. Kansas. 1874. Barbed wire invented, Glidden patent, transforming farming. Nebraska. 1874. Grasshopper plague devastated crops, forcing many settlers to abandon farms. South Dakota. 1874. Gold was discovered. Custer's Black Hills Expedition. District of Columbia. 1874. Short-lived. Territorial government abolished.